Welcome to the FloridaDefense.com podcast. With over 30 years of strong defense and over 30 years of even stronger results, with FloridaDefense.com, you'll never believe you can't win.
All right, we are speaking to Tampa drug crimes defense lawyer Mike Kinney with the Bauer, Kreider, and Perry law firm. You're listening to the FloridaDefense.com podcast. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let's kind of dive into it today. We're going to be talking about mainly drug crimes and kind of an overview of drug crimes.
Right.
So where would be a good place to start?
Well, I guess talking about the categories of drug crimes. In the state of Florida, you have essentially three different areas where you can get a drug crime. And then obviously there's subcategories like anything, but the three different areas are there's misdemeanor possessions, there's felony possessions, and then there's trafficking possessions. That's a felony possession that is comes with a much more enhanced level. It's a first-degree felony punishable by up to 30 years in prison. And any trafficking charge has a specific minimum mandatory prison sentence. Minimum mandatory meaning the judge has no discretion but to give you the minimum amount of time in the Department of Corrections, and it's a day-for-day sentence, meaning 28 grams of cocaine is a 3-year minimum mandatory prison sentence. So if the judge were to find, or if you were found guilty and the judge were to sentence you, the judge could give you no less than 3 years in prison, and you'd have to serve 100% of that 3 years. There'd be no parole or probation or anything like that. To get out earlier, you'd serve 100% of 3 years in prison.
So on a trafficking offense, there's, like you said, subcategories. It depends on the amount of
correct
you have, correct?
Correct. It's the weight, and that's what it goes by. What a lot of people don't realize is the actual weight of the substance tested or any mixture thereof. So what gets people into trouble are pills. These pills obviously are pills like oxycodone and OxyContin. 4 grams is all you need to have a 3-year minimum trafficking charge. And the problem with it is it's not 4 grams of the actual ingredient, the oxycodone, but it's a mixture. And those pills are pretty heavy. So, a very small quantity of pills in a pill bottle, if you don't have a prescription, is going to qualify you for a trafficking charge. And trafficking in Florida is unique. It doesn't just go after people who sell drugs. It doesn't just go after people who transport drugs into the state, but just the mere fact that you possessed an item that weighed a certain amount could give you a trafficking charge. And I've always had a problem with this because I'm not the first person to say it, but we can all probably think of a time when we've read somewhere in the news that there's a pill epidemic. Young kids, especially because of the free and easy access to these pills, become addicted. And you have people who are addicts. They're not out selling it. They're not out really harming anyone else but themselves, find themselves getting arrested and having a small quantity of pills in their pocket, and they're looking at going to prison for anywhere from 3 years to the rest of their lives. So that's a problem that people run into when we're talking about prescription pills especially.
And it's, you said based on weight, so I guess it's different drugs, marijuana, cocaine, oxy,
Sure.
There's a certain parameter around each one of those on the weight.
Right, and the statute has basically, in this Florida statute 893.135 has a schedule for what the amount is for each drug. For instance, cocaine is 28 grams, oxycodone is 4 grams. Those are the minimum amounts of a trafficking charge, and it'll vary from drug to drug. The unique thing is I mentioned some drug possessions are misdemeanors. Marijuana is the only drug that under 20 grams is considered a misdemeanor. So if you have 19 grams or 19.9 grams or less, that would be a misdemeanor of the first degree, punishable by up to a year in jail or maybe a year of probation. Anything over 20 grams, or 20 grams or over, I should say, is a felony. So that would be a felony possession, which is a third degree felony in the state of Florida, punishable by up to 5 years in prison or 5 years of probation.
So you would recommend any of these categories, not just felony or trafficking, to hire a criminal defense attorney, even for a misdemeanor, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. People don't realize that walking into court completely unarmed and just entering a charge, that moment in time can have an impact on the rest of your life. A lot of people tend to be fast and loose with things. They said, all right, well, we'll just see what happens. Well, there's nothing you can really do 3 years down the line if entering a plea to a charge somehow precludes you from getting that job that you've always wanted. One of the unique things about the state of Florida as well is they're pretty fierce when it comes to drug prosecution. They do a lot. They have a lot of drug courts, and they try to help people, but they punish drug possession with a 1-year driver's license suspension. So if a person were to walk in and if they were adjudicated guilty of even a misdemeanor possession of marijuana, they have the potential to lose their license for 1 year. And that, for a lot of people, especially in this state, could be very problematic with regard to employment, school, or anything of that nature.
Right. Well, that's kind of an overview of the drug crimes, the 3 areas: misdemeanor, felony, trafficking. And on our next few podcasts, Michael, let's get kind of into specifics: marijuana, cocaine,
Sure.
Other drugs. And anything else, Mike, on just an overview of crimes?
No,
crimes?
that'll be it. That'll be it. The one last thing is there is another misdemeanor possession charge. It's not marijuana, but we heard the term controlled substances. These are categories of drugs that are considered controlled by their propensity for addiction or things like that. And there are drugs that are not listed in the statute. So those are usually drugs that a doctor gives you a prescription for, but that haven't been designated as controlled substances. All of those drugs are considered legend drugs. So that would be kind of like an Ambien, something that's like a sleep aid, Viagra, something like that. If someone was caught with those wouldn't be felonies, but because they don't have a prescription for them, it's still illegal, and that would be a misdemeanor and would be called possession of a legend drug. Okay.
As long as the amount is below the weight, or are those not even
That's
listed?
not even, weight doesn't even come up. It just falls into a category where they haven't listed it as a controlled substance, but you still need a prescription to obtain it. And because you need a prescription, if you have it without a prescription, it's still a crime.
Okay, great. Well, you've been listening to Florida Defense Podcast with attorney Mike Kinney of the Bauer, Kreider, and Perry Law Firm.
Thank you for listening to the FloridaDefense.com podcast. Our firm has over 130 years of combined legal defense experience. Strong defense, stronger results. Consultations are free. Visit FloridaDefense.com today.